Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast. It has been a while since you have seen us, but I promise it's going to be worth the wait. Today, we have an incredibly special guest with us that Aditya and I have been looking forward to for a really long time. She has been such a powerful voice for the Indigenous community across so many different platforms, and for her to give us the time today is honestly such a privilege. So, thank you so much once again, and we can't wait for the conversation ahead. Would you like?
You can
Thank you.
feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, my name is Evelyn Korkmaz. I'm an Indigenous Cree woman from Fort Albany, James Bay, Ontario. I'm a residential school survivor from St. Anne's Residential School, one of the most horrific residential schools across Canada. I attended there for 4 years from 1969 to 1972. I was there at the age of 10. The government funded the schools across Canada, and my particular school, St. Anne's, was run by the Oblate missionaries. And they were the ones that took care of us on a daily basis. When you entered the school, your first day, you were given a uniform and given a number. Like, I don't remember what mine was, to be honest with you, but yes, you were given a number, and that's what you were registered as. And our hair was all cut short, real short, right up to under our ears, the bangs, which I still have. And it wasn't a very pleasant experience. It was very difficult for us because we weren't considered human. We were considered savages. I was 10 when that, all this happened or started. And yeah, that's 50 years ago. And to be considered a savage and not a human being, still hurts at the core. It's made me strong. It's made me want to speak out for my people. It's made me want to speak out for other people.
Yes.
Now, not to interrupt, but many people, which you might actually find surprising, are not educated in the slightest as to what even a residential school is. Now, from personal experience, when I entered high school, honestly, any knowledge regarding Indigenous people in Canada, I have to say I had no idea about the trauma that they went through, and I honestly had no idea what a residential school was and what it meant. So if we could just discuss for a second what a residential school was and what exactly its purpose was and why they were like put into place in the first place.
Okay, a residential school is a place that you room and board. They feed you, they clothe you, you sleep there. They take you away from your family, your nice, comfortable bed at home, your little, stuffed animals and whatever. You're not allowed to bring those with you. They became your mother and your father. You went to school there, they educated you there. And we were taken there not on our own free will. We were ripped away from our families, and our families had no choice because it was the law
Yeah.
for the Indigenous people to be put in these schools, like I said earlier, because they wanted to take, the Indian out of the child and become civilized.
Yeah.
But as we went through school, we realized that, they weren't as civilized as we were, but I didn't know that until I became older. I just thought this was the way it was. I didn't question things. You don't question things when you're 10. You start questioning things when you get a little bit older.
Right. And what was life like before residential schools?
Yes, well, before that, I used to play outside and laugh and skip and, have fun just like a little child would. I was happy to be with my family. I ate with my family at dinner time. When I got scared at night, I crawled in to bed with my mother or my dad, and I was able to sleep with my stuffed toys, and I had toys. Um, I had more than one dress or clothing. I had a bicycle. I was a normal child. And then one day I was told, "This is your new school, and this is where you're going." You know.
Can you describe like a day at the residential school?
Okay, we used to wake up, line up, and go to the washroom, wash our faces in this big sink that the water spouts used to come out, like in the different areas. It was a round, circular um, basin. In some places, it was a long sink with taps. And we each went there to brush our teeth and wash our face and put on our uniform. Then the bell would ring to go to church. We went to church. After church, the bell would ring again to go and eat. And then the bell would ring again to go back to school. Not back to school, our first class. And then we just went to school, and we had recess like everybody else. And after school, the bell would ring. We would all line up again to go, to have something to eat for supper. And we ate at long benches with like the tables with long benches, like a picnic table, but it was much larger. And we all sat in a row, and we all squashed together and ate side by side. We weren't fed the same things the missionaries ate. They ate healthy meals. We ate mostly pork and beans, and it wasn't a very healthy meal. We were also given medication or pills in the morning. They told us it was vitamins or cod liver oil or whatever they told us. We didn't question it. We took it. As an adult, I'm hearing that some of these residential schools, they experimented on us. So, I don't know if I was experimented on or if I was actually taking the vitamins that, that I was told that they were vitamins, so I don't know.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be too much of a surprise if it was true, given all the other mistreatment that was going on there anyways.
Yeah, and St. Anne's, as you described as well, was a horrific place, right? And so, can you describe why it's so horrific?
There was a lot of pedophiles in the residential school. There was one known serial pedophile, Father Lavoie was his name. And he liked girls and boys. And he sexually abused a lot of the children, and he was there for at least 30 to 40 years.
Wow.
And people knew, and and he wasn't the only one, but he was the worst one, because he liked to torture his victim as well as sexually abuse them. And some of the priests or bishops impregnated some of the students. And they did a home abortion or whatever you call it. And yeah, to hide that they impregnated girls. And there was nowhere for us to run and tell people because our parents weren't allowed to come to the school. We never seen them throughout the year. We couldn't tell, another nun because they would say, what are you talking about? Father Lavoie is a very nice man, No one would believe us. We were children. It happened on a daily basis, several times a day.
Wow.
I didn't realize that as a child, but as I have grown up and look back on things, we would be in a lineup, like I said, to go to dinner, to go to church, or, line up to go to class. And somebody, a clergy person would grab one of the children, whether it was a boy or a girl, grab them and take them somewhere and sexually abuse them. But we didn't know. We thought they were, yeah, I don't know what we thought.
So, like, is there anything else? Of course, not saying that the sexual abuse was not enough, but what else made this place so horrific? Like, I've also heard that there were many forms of
Torture
torture used to
or punishment.
punishment rather is a better word.
Well, St. Anne's is very well known for its electric chair. Little kids were put on this electric chair and shocked. I wasn't. It was before my time. And there were missionaries and teachers and whatnot that witnessed this and used to stand around and just laugh when the kids shook on the chair. Going through this as a child, it affected my adolescence. It was hard to socialize with people. It was hard to trust people. I also questioned, why are they doing this to Indigenous people? We're not that bad, get to know us, But unfortunately, it's still going on today in, the policies that Canada has. Our healthcare system doesn't provide enough for us. We get the very basic care.
Or basic water, sanitation.
There is, the housing on my particular reserve and many of the reserves across Canada are very, they're not well put together for the environment. Like, we come from up north, so we need, better material for our houses because of the weather. And most of the houses are overcrowded. I don't know if you've heard recently in the news that Saskatchewan, which is our next door neighbor, is overcrowded. And right now they have 283 people that have the COVID virus. And it's because 16 to 18 people live in a 3-bedroom house.
Wow.
They don't have clean water. The reserve also gets flooded every spring, and they're flown out to cities in the south. So these are things that the government should have fixed a long time ago. They keep promising that they're going to fix it, but the government is all talk. They just want to look good in front of the public, but this is not actually what happens. And Indigenous people need to start stepping up and to self-govern themselves rather than putting their lives in, the government's hands, because we're not safe there.
It's been proven to be untrustworthy. to say
Yeah.
the least.
And I had a question regarding the Indian Act. That's like a bill or like a law that's in place right now, right? And I believe indigenous peoples aren't allowed to own real estate.
We are allowed to own real estate if we're off the reserve, but anything on the reserve is not ours. The houses that the government builds us don't belong to us. So if we want to open up a business, for example, we can't put a mortgage or a loan on the house to borrow money to open up a business like most people do, because it's owned by the government. And it's a prime example of how the government wants to keep us under their thumb. And why they want to keep us under their thumb, in my opinion, is that this land is ours. They're after our land. They're after the resources under the land. We have diamonds up in the north. We have all kinds of minerals that they're interested in. And they want to keep us, under their thumb. And people are starting to wake up, even the indigenous people, and we've had enough. Enough's enough.
I also feel like it's a way of hiding their past.
Well, thank God for the internet, because, people are getting educated on the indigenous issues. I've become an advocate on child sexual abuse. And I say child sexual abuse because it's not just indigenous people, it's all over the world. And I also asked Pope Francis to meet with me, which he did not. And I had learned that the clergy or the Catholic Church or Vatican, whomever, are all abusing children around the world. I met people from Argentina, India, the UK, the US, South America, Ireland, just everywhere, every country that you can think of that there is a church standing, there is a clergy person who is abusing children.
And the church has been directly affiliated with residential schools as well. And they have yet to offer an apology.
Acknowledge it and offer an apology, which is
an acknowledgement to start with, and then of course an apology is necessary. But when you went to go meet Pope Francis, what was the reaction that you got?
I wasn't surprised, because I don't think these people are living in the real world. They're so institutionalized, like we were as children, that, they live, in these four walls, that they don't realize what's actually going on in the real world. Yeah. But to be honest with you, because Pope Francis is not acknowledging what is happening, I think he's his worst enemy. I think people are so disgusted and, appalled by him. A lot of people have walked away from the church. It's not what it used to be. It's not a moral institute. They've lost their moral compass.
And since a lot of these acts were done under the name of religion, has that kind of changed your viewpoint on how you think of God or think of religion in general?
My mother's going to shoot me for this. Because she's a devout Catholic.
Oh,
wow.
Of course, they were brainwashed. They were brainwashed to think that, if they spoke against a priest, a bishop, a cardinal, the Pope, Jesus, that, a bolt of lightning will come out the sky and, strike them dead. fear, is something that, you use to control people. I lost my faith in the Catholic Church because I've seen what these people have done. So if there is a God in the Catholic Church, he wouldn't allow the things I've seen.
Do you know what else happened? Well, of course you do, but in a residential school, what methods did they use to brainwash you into thinking this way? Like after the first day that you entered the residential school, what are the steps that they took to make you brainwashed?
Like what they were teaching in the school?
Yeah.
Well, we were controlled in ways where our schedule was rigid. You had to follow a schedule. We were always told we were no good, we were dirty, we weren't worthy. You start believing people when they tell you these things, especially when they're adults. You look up to adults when you're a child, and then you lose your self-confidence, and you got hit when you spoke back. You got your mouth washed out with soap. You got, slapped at the back of the head. They were so cruel. It was just amazing how cruel they were. And I don't know why they were so cruel, if they, regretted going into that field or whatever. I don't want to say on.
Yeah, I guess, no, I don't think anything really justifies that. Like, we don't even have to think of reasons of why people would act like that towards others. I don't think there can ever be an explanation for it.
There's no.
Also, you have to remember, the time, like what years it was. We didn't have, internet. We didn't have, not everybody had a phone. Not everybody had a TV back then. So we were an isolated community. We still are. So no one really cared. We were like way up north and, out of sight, out of mind. And I was not abused by clergy. I was abused by the students that were abused by clergy. The abuse continues sometimes, most of the time. At the age of 10, I was dragged into the bush and I was raped by 8 to 10 boys. At the time, I didn't know what was happening to me. I thought they were beating me up. Later on, I realized it was called rape. It wasn't very far from the school where I was raped. And I walked to the hospital, which it was next to the school. I had blood from head to toe. And I went into the hospital in shock. I'm just surprised I went in the right direction. And one of the nuns, who is a nurse, because the nuns were teachers, nurses, caretakers, seamstress, whatever, everything. I was sewn up because I was ripped open, and the nun performed the surgery, or whatever you want to call it. There was no anesthetics. There was local anesthetics. And that was how I was introduced to sex at the age of 10. And that's the day my whole life changed. Those boys still are in my community, and when I go home to visit my family, sometimes I bump into them. It took me a lifetime to forgive. I hated my people because what they had done to me. I hated them because I didn't know what was done to them. I didn't realize that they were also abused. Not that that gives them an excuse to abuse other people, but it made it more easier to come to terms with it.
And I've heard you have had some struggles with obtaining your medical record. Is that true?
Yes, St. Anne survivors have been in court with the government for the last 10 years. I went to my hearing in 2011. And I spoke about my story from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock, which is a long time to talk about abuse. And there was no documents proving what I was saying was true.
Yeah.
It was just my word, and that was it. But what happened was, at the end of the day, they didn't believe a word I said. They called me a liar. Now, if my papers were there, it would prove that I was not lying. They had the papers, but they said they didn't have the papers. They are hiding those papers.
Papers are still there somewhere.
Of course, no one is going to go to a hospital and get treated and not get paid for it. Right?
Yes.
Back then, we had what you called an OHIP card. So that's what you use when you go to the hospital. Every time you go to the hospital, even today, they ask you, can I see your card, your health card? Back then, it was called a no-HIP card. The reason why you show that card is someone gets paid for what they're going to do to you. Same thing happened back then. So my records are somewhere at Health Canada, right? Your records are there, mine are there, everybody's is there. But they were not at my hearing, as promised. So we are going to court and saying, I didn't have a fair hearing. You called me a liar. You know, I have these documents. It proves also that I have been going to psychologists, psychiatrists for the majority of my life, because these are the things that I have to deal with. The rape at 10 and the continuous rape. It wasn't just once, you know? So all those records are there to prove that I'm not making up the story because of this settlement agreement, because I went to psychiatrists and that before this was even, you know, thought of. So what happened was I appealed. I got a settlement, but I don't find it was adequate, you know, for the suffering that I've been through and still go through today. I have a driver's license, but I can't get into the vehicle and drive 4 or 5 blocks without having an anxiety attack. I can't get into an elevator with a strange man, you know, without having an anxiety attack. I have built strategies in my life where I have gotten into an elevator, and if some stranger comes in, I'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot something, and just get out of the elevator. So I'm not alone with this person in the elevator. I know everybody's not a rapist, but those are the things that still happen to me today. And I'm 63. It's not something you get over. It's something that you learn to deal with.
And how did you evolve from so much anger inside of you to now doing something valuable with all the information you have and with everything that you went through? You said it took you more than 50 years to kind of go through that process. So how did you do it?
I'm not sure how it came about. Well, I do actually. One day, I had gone up to my hometown, Fort Albany. It was 1995. My grandmother, who I dearly love and was such a gentle soul, was on her deathbed. I'm a smoker, and I took a break outside of the hospital and went outside to have a smoke. And because I was crying, I removed my glasses. And in the distance, I seen a silhouette of a man and a child. And they were laughing and having a grand old time. And I said to myself, oh, what a nice dad, like that's, I was happy to see that. And they were coming closer and closer to the hospital. So they were coming towards the hospital and I still couldn't see them. And I, dried the glasses on my t-shirt and put them back on. And then when I looked up to see who it was, I had a big smile on my face and I said, oh my God, it's my rapist. I was so angry at myself for saying, what a nice guy. What a nice dad. I was just I could have beat myself up. I was so angry. And he walked right by me as if nothing happened or didn't even acknowledge me and walked into the hospital. And I sat there just in a state of shock thinking, oh my God. And then that was the end of that. I realized that day that this guy, my rapist, who had raped me several times, he moved on in his life. I was still stuck in the past. I allowed myself to continue being his victim. And because of who I am, I would be damned if I was going to give him that. So that day I said, okay, Evelyn, you got to pull up your socks and you're not going to let this guy win. He's moved on. He hasn't even given you the time of day or even apologized to you. And here you are sitting here, poor me, I'm a victim, I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. I wasn't going to show him he destroyed my life. So I pulled up my socks and I said, okay, I am going to become an advocate and speak for the children who are voiceless because no one spoke up for me. So that's where that happened.
That's an amazing turning point story.
What would you say to someone who might be listening, going through something similar?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think we all each have to go through our own method. Not all of us have the same personality. But what I would say is what happened. You can't change it. Don't allow it to control your future. Try to live the best life you can. Try to make change. Use your voice to make change happen.
Mm-hmm.
And given there's also been recent news of the government announced that Indigenous people can now reclaim their real names to put on legal documents.
That would be great yesterday. If they would release the documents to let us know what our names really
were. Exactly.
So I believe these children surfaced to bring the truth out, for us to really start on the road to reconciliation.
What did you tell your parents upon, after these experiences that you had at residential school? When you went back home, would you tell your parents what you've been going through at the school?
Like I mentioned earlier, my mother is a devout Catholic. When you tell your parents about somebody religious that has done you wrong, they just go, shh, don't talk. They would never do that. There were times where we walked through the village and you bumped into a priest. You had to lower your head down as he walked by you. and you know that that guy walking by you is a pedophile. But who's going to believe you? That's the way our parents were. It's no fault of their own. They were brainwashed. They truly believed that these people were, the good guys. As an adult, when I look at a priest, I hate to say it, but I don't see a priest. I see a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust them. I know they're not all the same, but I would say the majority of them are. The reason why I don't trust them and believe them is because I have friends. I founded, I helped found a group called ACTS Canada, Advocates of Clergy Trauma Abuse of Canada. And I have friends in that group that have been abused by clergy. So I know it happens all over Canada. And it continues to happen. We are trying to make people aware that this is going on, to show them that they're not alone. I've been interviewed by international media, and I'm trying to get the word out there best I can. I want people to be aware that these people need to be accountable for their actions. They can't go around destroying children's lives. And as a parent, as government officials, the prime ministers, the president need to put laws into place. The statute of limitations need to be lifted, because when you are a sexual abuse victim, it takes you years and years to come out with the truth.
What do you say to just the listeners? What are steps they could take towards helping you achieve your goal?
Well, you can write to your MPs and say, why is the church not accountable for their actions? Why are we letting them get away with raping children? Donate to endingclergyabuse.org. Donate to ACTS Canada. We're on the internet. You can find us. If you see us marching, join us. We have advertisements where we, wear orange t-shirt day. Wear an orange t-shirt. That says every child matters, because every child does matter. Put shoes out on the front steps of every church you walk by. Tell everybody that, you are aware that this is what the church is doing. You may not be a victim. You don't have to be a victim in order to speak out. No one is excluded from these people. What they do is, when someone is found to be a predator, let's say someone is found to be a predator in Ottawa, they will move them to Toronto or to Vancouver, or maybe to Rome, or maybe to France, maybe to India. And we need the Catholic Church or the Vatican to be accountable. They're committing a crime. Why are we looking the other way? No one can answer that question. Why are we looking the other way? And it's not something that you can bury or sweep under the carpet. I've tried, trust me. Yeah. But when I'm at my most vulnerable, I get anxiety attacks, I get flashbacks. 50 years later, there's some times where I'm scared to go to sleep because I might dream about it. It's just no human being should go through this. Nobody. What right does somebody that claims to be a moral figure, and of all the people in the world, you feel most comfortable with your parents, but you realize that they can't save you from everything? That's when you become that adult child.
Well, given all that, we do appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Yep.
And it's great that you have a platform now, so much social media, And it's good that our viewers and listeners will also be able to have those access to those resources that they may not have heard about or known about before. I think I just want to ask one final question to kind of wrap it up, but what does the next step towards an apology really look like to you? Because we throw that word around a lot. Oh, apologize for this, apologize for that. But what is an action that would really show you that the government, the church, the citizens are actually working towards an apology?
An apology to me from the Pope means acknowledgement of the wrongs that he has done. The church in the Catholic religion makes you go to confession to confess your sins, and then they give you a penance to repent. Why can't they preach what they say? Why can't they say, I'm sorry, we have done the Indigenous people wrong. We will make it right. Yeah. 2 simple words, I'm sorry. That helps somebody start their healing journey by acknowledging that they were wronged. And yes, maybe it wasn't Pope Francis that made that action, but he is responsible, and he is the head of the organization that did the Indigenous people wrong. And if he claims to come from a moral institute, isn't that the moral thing to do?
Yeah. Wow, that was probably the best podcast we've done so far. So once again, thank you so much for your time, your valuable time. I mean, you're doing so much already. So I'm really glad that you responded to my message, just a random girl on the internet. And we now have the resources and more knowledge than ever before. So we'll definitely be doing our part, and we're hoping the viewers, listeners will also do theirs.
Mm-hmm. And after hearing your story, I'm sure many more people are going to be affected, and will hopefully, certainly it'll help move towards the reconciliation that we wish.
As best that we can, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.